Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do comparisons of clusters using differential expression across different tissues, right? So for the purposes of this tutorial, I've loaded two regions into DropViz. So those are the frontal cortex and the striatum. As you can see here, limit by region, and I've put these two into the box, and that means all of their clusters and subclusters are now accessible for analysis. But I've limited the clusters that we're interested in to just neurons because I'm going to do a comparison of the parvalbumin positive interneurons in cortex and striatum. And you'll recall the parvalbumin positive interneurons within cortex are cluster number 2. And in the striatal data set, they are cluster number 14, and they are also positive for the marker TH. Okay, so we can do this at the level of subclusters, but just for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to do it at the level of clusters. Okay, so we have the two data sets loaded in. Now again, we can go to the clusters tab, and we can select our target cluster. Now because we're in the global clusters tab, where only global clusters are accessible here. If we clicked on subclusters, then all of the neuron subclusters for both frontal cortex and striatum would be accessible here. So for our target cluster, I'm going to select frontal cortex cluster number 2, the somatostatin and parvalbumin cluster. And for striatum, I'm going to select cluster number 14, parvalbumin and TH and PNOC. So now with these two clusters selected, I can go to the scatter plot tool and now visualize the log gene expression scatter plot comparing the cortical interneuron cluster 2 versus the striatal parvalbumin interneuron cluster number 14. And you can see there's the default differential expression options are showing us some genes that are significantly enriched in the cortical parvalbumin cluster, for example, nitrous oxide 1 and PAS3. Now we can say we want to adjust these settings to look at genes that are enriched in either cluster. We can now go to the differential expression criterion window and switch it to fold ratio only. So again, now we're going to be looking for genes that are overrepresented in either the striatal interneurons or the cortical interneurons. For example, somatostatin is highly enriched in the cortical interneurons. Now again, this is a kind of heterogeneous collection of interneuron subtypes, all encompassed by clusters 2 and clusters 14. But nonetheless, just for illustrative purposes, for example, if we wanted to find genes that were enriched in the striatal parvalbumin population, we can change the fold ratio and identify genes that are highly enriched in the parvalbumin striatal interneurons. Okay, I hope that helps for how to perform comparisons across tissues.